Welcome to Retcon Air, the Plotline Repair podcast. Like the name suggests, this is a podcast that takes a look at the plotlines of movies, sitcoms, books, video games, and even Broadway shows. We'll break down who wrote it, how it was received by the community, how it impacted us, and then of course we'll take a walk through the main moments of the story, and then wrap up by adding what we might do differently if we had a chance to repair a piece of the plotline that doesn't quite jive with us. We know that this is a hell of a lot of ground to cover, so in the show notes you'll find a table of contents with time codes to serve as a guide for each episode of Retcon Air. Sure, we'll cover comments and criticism and even offer our own ideas for ways that we could repair the plotline of each of these stories, but myself and all the people that you'll be hearing about are making the show because we love these pieces of work and we love getting the chance to talk about them. So if that sounds good to you, stick around as we break down Batman Arkham Knight. And I am joined today again by the fundamentally flawed but fantastic Briar Fitch. Bear, welcome back to the show. You're my first returning guest.
Aww.
So we did Endgame first, and that was a longing. I'm expecting this to be quite a bit shorter than that. But yeah, I mean, thank you for coming back. Did you have a good time the first time that we actually did the podcast together?
Yeah, I had a great time. What was that, like 2 hours for the first one? Something felt like?
Yeah, I mean, what maybe felt like years, but it was good.
I mean, when we were done, I was convinced my kid was a whole year older. So, you know, it is what it is.
But again, with something like Endgame, it was something that really, it needed that much time for us to get through it in a way that made sense, and to, I don't know, just some stuff, it just requires time to take it apart and...
Oh, for sure.
Talk about it the way it needs to be talked about. So since you're here, do you want to run us back through the writer's room after you explain to the listeners that are currently probably scrolling through other podcasts that are better than ours?
I mean, that's literally any other podcast, but yeah.
All of the other podcasts that are better
also, you're fundamentally flawed.
You're
dick.
Hurtful.
Rude. So, Writer's Room is where we briefly explain who contributed to the story we're about to break down. Since Retcon Air focuses on plot lines, we'll focus on the story of Batman Arkham Knight. And who wrote it as opposed to the game development side. The story was crafted by Martin Lancaster, Sefton Hill, that's a cool name.
Right?
And Ian Ball. Sefton Hill is actually one of the co-founders of Rocksteady Studios, and he's the one that directed the first Arkham Asylum. So it makes sense that he'd have a hell of a role in writing the final chapter.
So I only know Rocksteady for doing Batman. Do they have anything else in their quiver, or are they just pretty much known as like the Batman game developer?
I mean, for the most part, primarily Batman, I would say. But their first game actually wasn't comic related at all. It was this riot game called Urban Chaos Riot Response, which, I mean... sounds amazing, honestly.
Yeah, so Urban Chaos Riot Response, it sounds like you just run around as like a riot control person. You're just whooping people to death.
I mean, do I get the shield and the gun with rubber bullets? Because if so, I'm on board.
Just give me some smoke grenades and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Did the game do well?
I mean, I guess. But then, you know, they picked up Batman and just never looked back. Because, I mean, why would you?
Right. And so, yeah, so they started with Arkham Asylum, which was amazing. Followed it up with Arkham City, which was fantastic. I think it's a fan favorite for most people. And then they did something weird where they let a company, WB Montreal, make Arkham Origins. I think just because Rocksteady needed more time to do what they wanted to do with Arkham Knight. Why don't we get into the deep impact? Let's talk about what people thought, what people felt about Batman Arkham Knight.
Okay, so Batman Arkham Knight, for the most part, was pretty well received overall. The vast majority of the reviews I found were either positive or mixed, but I didn't really find very many negative.
Okay.
That being said, why don't you go ahead and take the positive comment? Because I have a favorite one for the negative that I really want to read.
Which is cool, because typically I take all the negative ones.
Yeah.
So this is a rare opportunity for me to talk about something positive.
I just love how petty the person's being. I respect it.
Okay. All right. Well, so the top positive review that we found for Batman Arkham Knight, it's from Mr. Dan Stapleton of IGN. He rated the score out of 9.2 out of 10, praising the graphics, gameplay variety, detail of the open world, and the voice acting performances, particularly of Kevin Conroy as Batman and John Noble as Scarecrow. 100%, no question. Those things are phenomenal. And then also, was it Lucius Fox is done by David Fennoy, and he's one of my favorite voice actors as well. If you played the Telltale Walking Dead games, he's in there. He's like, if you look at his pedigree, he's in like every game you've ever played. So there's a ton of amazing vocal performances in it.
Awesome.
And so back to the review, he ends the review by saying, if this is in fact the last Rocksteady developed Batman game, the series will end on a high note. Arkham Knight is the biggest Batman game yet, not just in its map size, but in its wide range of different types of gameplay and its collection of characters. The addition of tank combat thematically clashes with everything Batman stands for. Okay, but it's fun having access to the Batmobile for the first time. It gives us a new world of possibilities for interacting with Gotham City. Arkham Knight is an outstanding game on almost every level. Okay,
so I'll do the negative, but real quick, just to jump back in. Huge fan of John Noble, but not even for his voice acting work, just like him as an actor.
Yeah.
Return of the King. I mean, he's kind of a dick, but we'll look past that. Mm-hmm. But I was always a huge fan of him in the series Fringe. I don't know if you...
Yeah, me too, 100%. Yeah.
Fringe is awesome, and I love his character in that.
Yeah, and I think I was getting into Fringe because I was super into X-Files, and then Fringe kind of like took us on this journey. Joshua Jackson was in it, and then John Noble was in it. Incredible role. And then at some point while watching Fringe, I was like, holy shit, is that the guy from Return of the King? And then once I've made that parallel, then I just started obsessing over how great John Noble is as an actor.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, so I love that like so many like actual legitimate credible actors are really spending their time more and more with video games. I think video games is offering actors something that they're not getting other places, and I'm glad to see that they're all taking steps to hang out with us.
Yeah, I just watched like this list of like top 10 actors or something like that who kind of made a move into voice acting. It's crazy the amount of people who have actually stepped away from like making movies and films and all that stuff to start doing voice acting instead.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, you probably have better hours, you probably have a better work-life balance. You're not going remote to New Zealand for, years at a time. Yeah. You just go to a studio that's local to you.
You're not gaining weight for a role, losing weight for a role. You really just show up in your pajamas.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So yeah, top negative comment.
Okay. So like I said before, I actually had a hard time finding negative comments, specifically legitimate game critic negative comments. For the most part, I only found positive and mixed, but there was a shit ton of negative user reviews, and my god. This one is my favorite. I didn't get the guy's name because it's not important, but
fair enough.
It reads, quote, I only give it 1 because I want to reserve 0 for something really special, and Batman Arkham Knight is not special. It's just such a scorned child. It is just bad. I have spent about 2 hours on this game, and there wasn't one pleasant moment during that time. Everything is terrible here. Story, camera, Batmobile, fighting, grappling. Graphics are just atrocious, very dark and cheap. Everything looks exactly the same. Moving to some roof just to do some stupid stuff seems pointless. I expected nothing and still was severely disappointed. I really can't understand how people can play it, yet how they think it deserves a 10 out of 10. Last week I played Mad Max for 15 hours. It wasn't the ideal game, solid 7 out of 10, and I thought Batman Arkham Knight would be in the same league. Little did I know. End quote.
So, real quick. Now, if I challenge nothing else that this guy said except for this one thing about the fighting mechanics, Batman Arkham Asylum is what introduced free flow combat into gaming. And so that mechanic has been replicated all over the place. It's in Spider-Man. It's in Mad Max. Like the same, like the punch counter, like that is very much, picking up weapons and like that is all free flow style. And that all started with Arkham Asylum. So it doesn't make sense to me for him to say that the fighting wasn't good and then parallel it to another game using the mechanics that were created by this developer. And I've played the crap out of Mad Max. It's a great game, especially if you love that world. Oh yeah. But it's not as tight as it is in Batman. Like, the Batman Arkham team at Rocksteady does free flow combat better than any other game I've ever seen.
Mad Max really all revolves around the car. The fighting is just kind of like a option B.
There's a lot of fighting as you're like rating or whatever, but still it's never quite as tight as it's been in Batman Arkham. And so this, I mean, who hurt you, bud?
I just love I want to reserve a 0 for something special and Batman's not special.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
I read that and just started laughing like, well, this is going in.
Yeah. Well, you can't make everybody happy. I think that's clear. So enough about them. What about you? When did you fall into this series? Like, what was your kind of like? What is your take on Batman Arkham as Rocksteady has made it?
I mean, it's not bad. I dig it. I mean, for what it is. I mean, it being my first experience into the Batman world in general, as far as like video games are concerned. I mean, I dig it. I dig the setting and the gameplay, and like I have a couple issues with the combat, but like as a overall, I think the combat in it works. Yeah, it's nice. I just like I would tweak a couple things here and there, but I mean, still, I'm not going to complain about it. I mean, I'm going to complain about it, but not like to this guy's extent.
So like, when were you introduced to the series?
With Arkham Knight, because you had told me, hey, it's free to download this month on PlayStation Network. You should go download that. And I said, yeah, okay.
So when you told me that, I wasn't sure why. Like, it didn't make sense because I know, like, so that Comic Explained YouTube channel, you're the one that introduced me to that channel, and you watch that constantly. Like, there's tons of information that you've learned from that. I know you're super into comics. I know you're super into Batman. So it really surprised me to know that, like, you know, we're 4 games into like, some of the best Batman games ever. We're 4 deep now. And you just never played them. Like, why? What was it about the games that just never drew you in?
First of all, solid plug for Comics Explained.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Rob's a cool guy. I do enjoy his videos.
Yeah, 100%. We're big fans of Rob's show. 100%.
Yeah. But anyways, the main reason I never got into it is like right around that time, I was just broke. Like anytime Batman came out, I had no money whatsoever. Couldn't afford to go get it. So like I had to be very like particular about what I was going to pick up, what game I wanted to play. So like it just kind of fell to the wayside because I had more interest in other series like Assassin's Creed and, you know, stuff like that.
That's fair.
And then when I finally did have the money to go pick it up, it was already like 3 games deep. And it's just like, I don't want to just dive into the end without having all that backstory, but there's a shit ton of backstory.
100%.
So like, it's just seems very overwhelming. Like if I want to play one, I have to play all 3. I don't have that time. Mm-hmm. And then Arkham Knight came out. It was even worse. It's like, I really don't have the time to dive into this series. I don't want to pay for it to just not really know fundamentally what's going on. Like, I mean, I get the gist of it. I mean, it's Batman, but like, you know, any references they may make to Asylum or City or do they even reference Origins at all in Night? I
don't think anybody does really.
But anyways, but yeah, it's just, you know, not wanting to set aside all that time to go through to try to play through all of them to get caught back up when I have a million other games that I haven't finished or would want to play more. And
so it sucks. Like I get that this is more of a, like it was free, it was available, and so, you know, and we just started doing this, so we were trying to figure out like some content to get started, so it was a really good one for us from an efficiency standpoint, but from a story standpoint, and we'll go into the story here in a little bit, but like once you start this, I mean, it starts you at a very important part of the story.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have any context for what happened in Asylum or in City, then you're missing out a lot. So yeah, and there's a lot that you can derive from that. And there's, you know, you don't need them. It just like anything, like with Endgame, you didn't need to see all the 22 movies before Endgame to appreciate it. But damn, if you did, you know, your value was so much more than if somebody who just came in and then only watched Endgame and then moved on. So I really appreciate that you jumped in. It's unfortunate that you didn't get as much value out of like the average person.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so to summarize, just, you know, being broke and a lazy piece of shit. I just never, you know, never got into them.
Well, for me, I picked it up at launch. I remember hearing about it, I think at like E3 or maybe I read something. I can't really remember exactly where it was pitched to me, but I remember seeing like a demo for the free flow combat, seeing the design, hearing Kevin Conroy's voice and going like, oh, 100% like Kevin Conroy. Like if he's my Batman for sure. And, you know, Mark Hamill's coming in as the Joker. So I'm like, you're scratching all the things that need to be scratched. I'm in it. Let's go.
I love Mark Hamill in there.
Yeah. Like the perfect, you know, a guy who we didn't really peg him as somebody who would be like a phenomenal voice actor, but
he was Luke Skywalker and that was him. But and then he shows up and he's a wicked Joker.
Yeah. So competent. And like even he could turn it on and off and he's so good at it.
Oh, he's so good. I love watching like any videos from him at like conventions and whatnot. He just flicks a switch and he's in the Joker persona and just talking as it. It's amazing to watch him.
There's a video, it's like him and it's Tara Strong who voices Harley Quinn, and like he's sitting in a chair and she's like on his lap and he's just like, Harley, you're like my favorite tool in my box, and she's like, oh, and they're just hanging out together, and it's like, so they love these characters, they're so in tune with these characters that like at a Comic-Con convention they could just turn it on like they want to, and like I love that. Like that just speaks to like how much time you spend as an actor, like really giving yourself into a role, and like that's what helps draw all of us in as like fans to see like the performances. And so yeah, between like the voice acting, between the phenomenal writing, the really, really good gameplay, all that stuff was just so good in Asylum that like 100%, like as many games as Rocksteady wants to make, like I'm gonna go ahead and play them. And so yeah, like I played all of them. So even Origins, like I played all of them. But yeah, so enough about us. Why don't we talk about this incredible story? So in a segment we call There and Back Again, we're going to recap some of the big moments in the story. And we can't break down everything all the way down, but we want to cover as much ground as possible without getting too bogged down. So, Briar, you want to take us through the synopsis?
Yeah, sure. So in the explosive final to the Arkham series, Batman faces the ultimate threat against the city he is sworn to protect, the Scarecrow. returns to unite an impressive roster of supervillains, including Penguin, Two-Face, and Harley Quinn, to destroy the Dark Knight forever.
So let's get into it. So I called the first chapter Gotham's Finest. It has kind of like a soft intro, and then it has like a second soft intro, and then the game actually starts, which I thought was kind of cool. So we like we were saying,
kick to the chest.
Yeah. So we start in it, and that's why I was kind of apologizing to you. Like, you start with seeing the body of Joker pushed into like a cremation chamber.
Yeah.
And like the first action you take in the final game, Arkham Knight, is to torch the Joker's body. And so if you don't have any context for what happens before that, then yeah, you're like, okay. So for all of us that like, we spent so much time in Asylum and in City fighting the Joker in all kinds of different ways that we, so are they going to kill Joker? Are they not going to kill Joker? Like, is this, it's a comic, so nobody ever really dies or whatever. And so for them, they're like, no. He's dead, and we'll prove that to you by like torching his body. Again, like, you came in with zero context, but like, how did that hit you? Like, starting with torching Joker's body, like, how did that hit you as a gamer, as a fan of comics?
So like, okay, you hear the sound of like the table being pushed in, you see Joker slide all dead like on into that. And like, honestly, I didn't even realize, first of all, that I was supposed to do anything. I'm just sitting there watching Joker lay on a table. I'm like, I
think most of us did, because I don't think it prompts you. I think there's like a time delay for like 30 seconds. And so we're all just staring at the corpse of the Joker, and we're like, is this broken? So
like, I thought, like, is it frozen? Like, I started like flicking the joysticks, and the fire kept going as it did. So like, I just held the joystick over, and the fire just took off. I'm like, oh, they're making me do this. Okay.
I don't know if I'm qualified to do this, but all right.
I feel like I have to be certified. I am not, but cool. So torch the Joker, and like the whole time it's happening, like, I had two thoughts. Either one, this isn't Joker, it's like a body double, because he's done that in the past. So like, it's either it's not him and this is a body double and he's still going to show up later, or option B, this is him, he's dead, but for some rhyme or reason, Batman is going to be tripping balls throughout the entire game and just hallucinating Joker everywhere. Mm. And, well, I mean, we know which way the game went.
100%. Well, so did you think that was interesting, though, or
I thought it was a very, like, it was a very definitive thing for the Joker, too, because, I mean, like, being cremated is pretty final. You don't just, like, you don't shake that one off.
Right.
So, like, it was definitely, like, an attention grabber to, again, first intro into the game, into the series, and I'm cremating Joker. I'm like, all right, well, I'm here for it. Like, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah. It was, and like you said, it was a very definitive, and I think that's what made Arkham Knight work so well, is they were very much like, all right, we're gonna close this chapter, we're gonna close this chapter, we're gonna close this chapter. And I think that as a game developer, like, I think sometimes there's too much, what's your decision and how is it going to affect the story, and make your own story. Like, there are often times where I'm just like, tell me your story. Like Jedi Fallen Order, they told me their story and I played it the exact way that they wanted me to play it. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a whole lot of options there. Like Telltale's games are very much story driven. Detroit Become Human are very much question driven. You can, there's all kinds of different ways that you can do it.
I've referenced the series Dishonored multiple times. Like, that game, it's either very light or dark ending, depending on if you do lethal, non-lethal. Mm-hmm. And then in the second game, you have 2 endings for each of the 2 playable characters. So technically 4 endings. Mm-hmm. And I remember I played through the first time. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get all 4 endings. And like halfway through the second playthrough, I'm just like, no, I'm done. We're good.
Right. And I just think it's a time commitment. Like you were saying before, it's like, there are times where I just don't have time to figure out which of, like, the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, like all the 36 endings or wherever they had, depending on the way that you played it. Like, there's so much there that I don't always have time for that. Sometimes just give me a straightforward story. It's like, I just really enjoy having you tell me the story that you want to tell me. Yeah. So I can just really end it and enjoy it. So it was nice. I thought the way that they did it was pretty good. It was very final, the way that they closed it all up. So, all right. So back into, so that was the first intro, Joker dying, very concrete. And then we kind of have like a secondary intro, which is, it's really cool because it actually cuts to the perspective of Mr. Officer Owens of the Gotham City Police Department. And so it starts with us, we're in his point of view, walking into a very busy diner, which I thought was confusing, because we've never really played as like a non-Batman, non-superhero character before. And so you look around at a lot of people eating. They're just kind of chilling. Then you kind of make your way to like the little bar area. You grab a seat. There's like some banter between you and like the waitress about like what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat and stuff, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, really kind of anchored the fact that this is a guy who, he haunts this is his beat. This is where he eats and then he goes home and stuff. Yeah. And then there's some kind of like issue with somebody smoking in the restaurant, and a patron comes over to you because you're an officer and just says like, hey, can you ask that guy to stop smoking over there? So, you get up, you walk over, you try to reason with a red-hooded smoking man sitting at a table with like an A carved into the table, which looks like the anarchy symbol, and even his red hood really make, like, if you remember Anarchy from the previous 2 games, which you don't have really context for, Anarchy was a big part of that. And so it looked very much between the A carved into the table and then him wearing that red hood, that I'm pretty sure that was the character Anarchy working on behalf of the Scarecrow to help disassemble like society, and really, it would make sense that he would be the one to facilitate that. So officer walks up to him, and then as he goes to like tell him to put out that cigarette, dude pops up, face of a zombie monster thing, and then all of a sudden you kind of see like the vision blurs, the scene changes, people start like just attacking each other, turning into zombies, and then you have the option to pull out your gun and then just start firing. And, the diner kind of falls, people start thrashing one another. You kind of zoom out to the citizens of Gotham that are freaking out as Scarecrow appears, played again by the incredible John Noble, providing their only warning to escape. They've got 1 day to get the hell out of Gotham. And then we hear the voice of Commissioner Gordon, played by Breaking Bad's Jonathan Banks, who I love that character very much. If you've not seen Breaking Bad, please do.
Which one was he?
So he was like the hitman. He was like the shorter, bald guy, like toward the end of the series that was like the hitman working for Gus.
Okay.
And so he was like this cool, old, surly guy that just kind of, he worked with like the lawyer a little bit, and he was the guy that was kind of working on the back end, just killing people constantly. Do you know who I'm talking about at all?
Nope.
Okay, well, trust me, that's real.
Yeah, I've watched like an episode here or there, but like I don't know enough about like the series to really have any idea who you're talking to. I just didn't know if it was like one of the main characters I did know. So
he wasn't a main character like in the beginning. He became he started with like a smaller role in Breaking Bad toward like some of the final seasons, and then he became more and more ingrained and stuff. And
I didn't get very far into it, so yeah.
Oh man, he became one of my favorite characters. You'll love him. And so,
well, now I'm gonna hate him.
Nah, you can't.
Out of pure spite.
No, you'll. No way. His performance is too good. So we hear Commissioner Gordon saying that in just 24 hours, most of the 6.3 million people living in Gotham have peaced out. We were given a pretty short peek at the few willing to stay behind, those who, quote, like the chaos, unquote. And so we're shown another GCPD officer hitting the ground due to a gunshot to the head. We see Two-Face, we see Penguin, and a whole lot of thugs getting the rampage on. But then we see the Gotham City skyline. It's raining. Lightning is striking. We see the bat signal appear in the sky, just right off the GCPD building. And then we see the Dark Knight himself, who dive bombs his way through the sky, shares a couple pleasantries with Commissioner Gordon, and then disappears into the night because last night maybe we lost Gotham, but tonight, Briar, we bouts to take it back. So, like, with that whole intro, like, so we had the Joker one, which was, like, it was, cool, concrete, whatever. We had this diner one, which was, like, crazy aggressive, pretty violent, whatever. And then we have this awesome intro to Batman. Like, how did your balls feel, like, in that moment?
Well, I've lost all feeling in my balls years ago, so pretty numb. But no, that intro was, damn. It was good. You have that scenario of shit just, in every sense, just destroys the fan, and in walks Batman. Yeah. Like, all right, let's rock and roll. Let's do this.
And I think it was a really interesting way to kind of showcase, because whenever we're in Gotham, it's typically either, for a second, we're seeing like the citizen who's about to get mugged and then Batman comes in and fixes everything. Or typically we're just in the pilot seat of Batman or Nightwing or whomever who is capable of handling anything. But I think this was a really cool way to show us like just how helpless people are and what exactly this fear toxin can do. So like, the diner in the matter of seconds completely falls into chaos. And then they're saying like that was just a sample of what I can do. I think that was a really hardcore moment that this is some hardcore terrorist stuff. In this diner, several people were slaughtered. There was a cop who had this fear toxin and, so as you're playing the game, you can unholster your weapon and start shooting people. Those are, you just saw all those people in the diner. A guy just told you to put out somebody else's cigarette. And now you, because of fear toxin, shot all those people. So
did you pull the trigger?
Oh, yeah, I was just unloading.
I didn't actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Because like I had that moment of like, those are fucking people.
Yeah.
Like I just saw them.
No.
Like I'm not going to shoot them.
They're zombies, man. They got to go.
Because honestly, I also had that moment too of like, for some reason, I suddenly gave a shit about this officer's personal life. I'm like, if he doesn't die here, he's going to walk out and just be blasted on the news because he just kills people. We're not shooting anyone.
And that's the thing. It's like you don't know how much of that was a hallucination. So, what you're seeing, people just kind of swarming each other and attacking each other. is that even really happening, or are you the only one affected and everybody else is just normal and you're just opening fire? So I don't know. To me, they were zombies and they had to go. But then, well,
I think we know which one of us has a promising career as an officer and which one does not.
So earlier it says yesterday there were 6.3 million people in Gotham. So let's say 5 million of those people
on those tiny ass islands
emptied out because of how traumatic this diner event was. And it really just sets the table for what we're up against. Batman's got his work cut out for him. And that takes us into chapter 2. Briar, would you like to intro the chapter and then take us through it?
Yeah, I would love to, because I love the title you've given this one, which is chapter 2, Allies and Assholes. So we quickly learned that there is some hardcore drone technology at work here, and Batman needs to even the score like only the Batman can. So he brings in the Batmobile to wreck some shit. Now, do you want to pause real quick and talk about the Batmobile controversy, or you just want to roll through this?
Well, so which one? Do you want to talk about me not wanting to talk about the Batmobile, or the fact that people typically hated driving the Batmobile in the game?
Yes.
Okay, so all right, so just because give you some inside baseball, a little peek behind the curtain. Initially, since this is Retcon Air, I had no interest in talking about gameplay mechanics whatsoever,
which blew my mind.
So again, it's literally called Retcon Air. So it's a plotline focused podcast. So to me, I'm like, well, the people that are listening to this are only going to care about the plotline anyway. So I don't want to waste any time talking about the Batmobile or free flow combat or anything like that. But then as you challenged it, I sat there and I remember just kind of, I think I Facebook messaged you or I texted you or something like
it was a pretty quick turnaround, to be honest with you.
I think because literally I sat there for a second just to marinate on the concept of who would be listening to this. I was like, well, if they come to us because they're interested in the game, of course they're going to want to hear about the gameplay. And so I sincerely apologized to you and then said, yeah, we could totally talk about gameplay.
No, it was great because I brought up the point of well, what if I want to retcon the Batmobile mechanics? You argue with it no, we're only focused on the story, not the gameplay.
Right.
I was like, whatever, fine. And then literally 10 seconds later, I just get a message. You know what? Fuck me. I'm the idiot. Why would we not talk about gameplay in the game we're talking about? I'm sorry.
So I'm man enough to be wrong and admit it. So I'm sorry.
I'm just impressed with that turnaround. Normally it takes you a solid hour.
Well, it's because you had good reasons behind it and it made sense.
Which, to be fair, doesn't happen often.
So yeah, controversy A was initially we weren't going to talk about gameplay whatsoever, but here we are. If you don't like us to talk about gameplay, just tell me and I'll tell Briar.
And I won't listen. And I'll still bring it up.
So then additionally, the other controversy is that most people really hated driving the Batmobile. Now it took me a little bit of time to get used to it. The combat, the tank mode where you're actually fighting each other, that's super intuitive. I think most people got really comfortable with that. But it's the Riddler races and stuff, those mechanics weren't really tight. You really had to figure out how to use them. But to me, once you figured out how to get your boost going, how you could strafe back and forth, how you could use your brake to do to drift around turns and stuff. Once you really spent time and figured out how to control the Batmobile, it was an awesome experience and it handled very well. Even ejecting out of it, using it remotely and stuff. There was so much to it, but I know that most people really hated it. So where were you at with all that?
Okay, so before we go into where I was at, I just want to say the vast majority of the negative user comments I read were all around the Batmobile and how much people hated it.
Okay,
well, it was a pretty
and it's fair,
consistent theme. I mean, I remember at first I didn't like it. I remember talking to you about it and you kept telling me, you gotta give it time. You gotta learn how to drive it. You gotta give it time. Yeah. I gave it time. I learned how to drive it and honestly, not impressed.
Well, then apparently you didn't learn how to drive it. You just drove it.
I don't know. It's not... I don't know. I don't want to say I want more realistic driving thing because I don't. It's a video game. It's Batman, tight ass corners, and you only have about 10 feet of straight road. Right. So the way they have it set up makes sense and it works. I just had a really hard time getting into it. I remember any game that involves driving, I just like to be an asshole and drift around every possible thing I can, regardless if I needed to or not. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I remember constantly trying to do that in Batmobile and just slamming into cars or the wall or both or people.
Yeah. And there was one of the complaints was and I think even Dan Stapleton said it in his review, was the way that you're just destroying vehicles and people. Because if you hit a person with a Batmobile, they electrically bounce off of it and go flying. And so to everybody, and you're shooting them with rubber, hardcore rubber bullets or whatever. So you're not shooting bullets at people, but you're shooting rubber bullets at people to put them down, to debilitate them. And so his whole thing was the Batmobile would completely be killing everybody, which is counter to what Batman would be doing in real life. To which I said, yeah, but you're playing a video game, and the video game has to be fun to play. So you can't really break your speed every time you hit a wall. Like if you're playing like Need for Speed or whatever racing game where like your vehicle takes heavy damage every time you hit anything, you're constantly gonna have to repair your vehicle or slow it down. And this isn't how Batman rolls. He's got.
He has a tank. So.
His whole thing is like, I don't care what and I think they did a good job of like having him drive through pillars, destroy everything. Like nothing really stopped this vehicle unless he was getting like shot rockets at or whatever. But I think that's what made it work. That's why I liked it. So I totally get the dynamic between the people that didn't like it and what they didn't like about it. But like I did
get to a point where I started using like. I like to switch to tank mode. It's just a button press.
Yeah.
So like for really tight corners, I use that.
100%.
Like just boost on straight away. I need to make a 90-degree turn, quick tank mode, reorient, take off again.
Yeah.
Like that is how I did the vast majority of my driving.
And like as wide as the roads were, it was still so cluttered with stuff that it was difficult to navigate to a certain degree. So it could have been better like any game, but
especially
it was fine.
Which we'll talk about Firefly later, but like just having to chase his stupid ass.
Oh yeah,
I hated him and hated having to chase him mainly because of the Batmobile controls. I couldn't do it. He got away from me so many times.
Well, do you feel better now?
No.
Okay, well, get back to the story.
Hurtful. All right, so Batman tracks Scarecrow to a hideout where he finds Poison Ivy tied to a chair, and again, Scarecrow appears on the screen to poke a little fun at the Bat. Ivy's there because she refused to turn against Batman, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty dope. It's through her that we learn of a meeting led by the Scarecrow that was attended by Penguin and Two-Face and Riddler and Harley Quinn, and the plan was simply to kill the Batman.
Which is pretty standard Batman stakes, I think.
I mean, it's not...
Another day, another group of bad guys trying to kill me.
What was that? They all want me dead? Yeah, no, typical Tuesday.
Yeah,
what's up?
Makes sense.
But here we get introduced to another gameplay mechanic, which is pretty dope. The remote Batmobile, which I will say was actually pretty awesome. I did like that a lot.
Yeah, and me too. And I think like you could eject out of it and go flying, and then you could use it like to get yourself out of a bind. There's a point later in the game where you and the Batmobile are kind of working remotely in tandem, and there's like some really cool puzzle solving mechanics using the Batmobile. Like there's this part where you're like kind of going through this like tunnel with a drill bit, and so you like there's like a grapple hook that you attach, and then you lower your Batmobile, and then you're using its wheels to like rotate this thing around so you can maneuver. Like it's so well done with like the puzzle solving that again, like if you could really spend the time to enjoy it, like it was an awesome, impressive gameplay mechanic that I liked a lot. That worked very well, but I just know a lot of people didn't like that.
It took me a minute to realize like that you can move the Batmobile while its grappling hook was engaged. Like that first one where you're at was it Ace Chemical, whatever it was?
Yeah.
Then you have to lower the elevator down. I sat in the elevator. I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like I have the Batmobile and it's hooked onto this.
Yeah.
And then I get in, but like, what do now? It took me a little while. I will admit it, to realize like, oh, I can drive the Batmobile with the grappling hook tethered. Because like I know there's a vast majority of games like once you like use it for something, you can't move it because then like the grappling hook will disengage because like you gotta drive away. Yeah, and it was a legitimate learning curve to figure out how to do all this effectively. And I thought this game had a really cool way to teach you how to use it and like what its capabilities were, and then you just had to remember that and remember when to apply it. I liked it. Oh, for sure. It was good. It was great. So then, all right. So yeah, love the concept. Great idea. I'm on board for it. So after the remote Batmobile gets them out of a jam, Batman graciously escorts Ivy to the GCPD, the Gotham City Police Department, where she's placed into a holding cell, which honestly you spend a lot of time in. Well, and actually that part is really cool because there's a part where like Ivy kind of ghosts Batman and goes down an elevator, and she's like, typical, when's he gonna learn? And then she steps out of the elevator, and then he's waiting for her, and then he puts because he had like a vine, like just choke him out, like, take him somewhere. And like that was a very cool like moment between the two of them. So I really like those characters a lot. But then once you get to the GCPD, this is one of the cool moments where you can actually unlock a weapon early if you know where to go. So like if you go straight to the evidence room, and then you could break the glass holding the electroshock gun from the evidence locker that you had in like I think it was Arkham City. You walk in, punch the glass, take the gun, and then you've got it for the rest of the game. And so later on in the game, if you haven't done that, it'll tell you about it. But you can walk right in that the first time you walk into that building, you just take it and have it for the rest of the game. Which we were in chat when I was playing for the first time, so I do appreciate you telling me just to go grab that right away. Mm-hmm. did use it a lot.
Yeah. Super convenient. Very, very helpful.
So then the Batman seeks some counsel from the smartest lady he knows, Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, who identifies Ace Chemicals as the source of Scarecrow's toxin. Who would have thought? You know, he's building a toxin at a place full of chemicals.
Ace Chemicals?
Crazy.
Perfect.
Batman investigates the facility, but encounters the Arkham Knight and his heavily armed militia. Real talk, though, you needed Barbara to tell you that he's an Ace Chemical. Why didn't you just look there first?
You should have known. But again, plot armor, they needed her in.
Yeah, no, I get it, but come on.
And so
you're better than this, Batman.
So obviously this game's been out forever, and so we're gonna, we've already been into spoiler know we're gonna be that for pretty much all of these retcon places. But did you have any idea who the Arkham Knight was, as you met him the first time?
I mean, yeah. If you know any backstory to Batman, if you have any concept at all of who the Red Hood was, it's the same goddamn story. So yeah, he shows up, some guy super familiar with Batman calls him by his real first name of Bruce, oh yeah, no, that's Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Cool. I really don't know what more you want from me. You're yes, saw that coming a mile away.
And so when I was at the GameStop at the time, I think a customer came in and just started blurting some crap out that he read online. And then I remember telling him, and it drives me crazy, I can't stand people who spoil stuff for other people. I can't tell you how disgusted I am for the people that get early releases of games and then post the ending online, people who go see movies and pre-release and then post the spoilers online. I don't understand what you get out of ruining something for somebody else. It just doesn't make sense to my brain. I love talking about what happened after, and what movie? No, it was Jedi Fallen Order, because you had told me that you beat the game, and so I started talking about the plotline of the game because you had told me that you had beat the game, and then when I found out that you were making responses that were did you actually beat the game? And you're no, not at all. And then I got legitimately mad at you so here's the problem. The problem is that you and Shelby are absolutely terrible at using sarcasm.
Wait, okay. To be fair, we're using sarcasm through text, which it never translates.
Yeah, and it does. And 100% of the time that this household has tried to use sarcasm, it has not worked. So from a personal, philosophical, fundamental level, I hate when other people spoil stuff. So I would never want to do that to somebody else. So
what I just don't get is it just seems like it's you that our sarcasm fails on. A lot of other people pick it up right away, but it just flies right over your head.
I don't know. Whatever.
Well, and also, to be fair, you asked me, hey, did you beat the game? And I said, yeah, and then threw out some BS ending that right there should have told you. Yeah. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
But you started by saying, yeah, and then you did a very Breyer thing of saying something ridiculous. I'm oh, okay.
Ray time traveled and punched Vader in the dick or something.
Right. But again, anyway. So, so I...
just... I do remember, spoiler alert for Jedi, but that picture you sent of the stormtroopers as being they're drowned, they're just floating in water. Yeah. I remember I got to that point, so that's the picture Devin sent.
I was so mad at you. Anyway, I was equally mad at that stupid customer. I didn't kick him out of the store, but I just remember being mad at him, telling him how ridiculous I thought he was. But then I called a former coworker of ours, Rob, and just kind of talked about the same thing about, have you heard what's going on or heard what the rumors
Different
were?
Rob from Comics Explained.
Different Rob.
In case anyone's paying
I would love to call Rob from Comics Explained and talk about whatever he'd like to talk about. But
sure.
That didn't happen. But I remember us talking about what we thought Jason Todd's role was or whatever. And I just remember thinking that was a really lazy, easy way out.
Oh, for sure.
And that I hoped that they would do something different. And then I'll even have some stuff in the retcon section about what I would have rather seen. But it just, I don't know, it felt too easy.
No, I completely agree with that. I mean, you literally just recycled a story. Yeah. You already have the Red Hood. You just did it again, but instead of being the Red Hood, now he's the Arkham Knight. Yeah. Which then at the end of the game, doesn't he still become the Red Hood?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, you just... cool, Jason Todd was in here, but you took the lazy way out.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have had, literally anyone. Hell, you could have thrown... I actually probably wouldn't have worked, but, you could have thrown Ra's al Ghul in there.
Might as well. I mean, his whole thing is coming back.
Yeah.
But again, you didn't play City, and in City, he has a very kind of...
definitive...
ending.
Okay, well then fair. Then you can't bring him in. But again, literally anyone. It could have been just a scorned employee from, Bruce Wayne's business. Wayne Enterprise?
Yeah, Wayne Enterprise.
It could have just been a scorned employee from there who happened to be really close to Bruce for some rhyme or reason. Literally could have gone any other way, but no, you took the easy way out and just changed Jason Todd's villain name.
Dumb.
Nerds.
So
after Batman escapes the Arkham Knight's trap, he locates a Scarecrow in a building that has been rigged with a toxin bomb, because who didn't see that coming? It's then that he learns that Scarecrow has also had Oracle kidnapped and exposes Batman to the fear toxin before he dips out. Which, again, like, just a whole, like... Well, I'm going to take a pause here. It honestly irritated me. Like, has Scarecrow by the collar, right? Like, all right, we're done here. Yeah, there's a bomb, but cool, I can just beat you to a state of unconsciousness, defuse the bomb, and we out.
Yeah, we're both staying.
Hey, let me show you this clip of Barbara. And he just lets go of Scarecrow to call her. Like, just sucker punch him inside the head, knock him out, then call her.
Yeah, man.
No, you let him go and he leaves, and you're surprised that he got away.
Weird.
Fucking, god damn it. But anyways, Batman makes the decision to do his best to limit the blast radius of the bomb, knowing that he's probably gonna die. Even, if it explodes into toxins, which again, I mean, if you're gonna die anyways, I don't give a shit.
Or whatever.
I'll breathe deep. This is probably one of the more cinematic parts of the game.
There's like a couple of these. So I remember how, so that scene specifically, whenever I think about it, like I remember like how loud that whole part is. Like everything around you is kind of exploding. You've got all these warning sirens and like buzzers going off. You got these flashing lights. You've got Alfred trying to talk you out of doing it. You've got the score banging really hard under it the entire time. And then there's this really cool mechanic where if you try to put the antitoxin in too fast, it kind of glitches out and vibrates and stuff and locks up. And then you have to like let it calm down and like get back into it. And it's like,
if you do it too fast, it'll blow the fuck up.
And it's like this really beautiful like moment that like it forces you to endure that entire decision that Batman just made, where he's going to stick it out. And they do it a couple of times in this, but like that one was one of my favorite ones. They did that so well.
First and foremost, apologies. You're going to hear a lot of tapping underneath all that because I was just tapping this coaster against the table, not even realizing it. So I do apologize. But yeah, no, that whole scene, like I died multiple times in that scene because like I felt the panic of like, I got to get these in here. I got to save Gotham. I got to get the tube in the hole.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like halfway in and like, oh my God, I got to go. I got 3 more I got to do and just try to shove it in the rest of the way. And then it blows up and I die. And
Which would have been fine.
Super frustrated. And then, amidst all that anger and frustration, and on like my 3rd try, we are introduced to an old friend and a flashback. We learned that before the Joker died, he used his blood to infect 5 different people, including the Bats. Batman being Batman and not telling anyone anything ever, because why would you? Imprisoned the 4 other recipients who were physically and mentally transforming into the Joker. And from this point forward in the game, the Joker sort of joins you on your journey in some weird hallucination thing. And just sort of, force ghosts. I do love that you put that in there. It's a solid analogy. Just force ghosts giving you little quips now and then, just shows up. And thanks again to the infected blood and the fear toxin, after Batman does escape out of the exploding building, because you pass out and Joker's hallucination wakes you up or whatever. He alerts Gordon to the Oracle's kidnapping, who angrily leaves to find Scarecrow, which, I mean, I get, doing that dad thing.
And it was all hardcore, and like that concept of like Joker putting his blood into other people like was a really interesting concept, because like Joker's greatest fear is being forgotten. That's it. He's not afraid of literally anything else. He's not afraid of pain, losing anybody else. He's afraid of being forgotten. So I thought this was a really cool way to kind of like pose that out. Now, I was worried that I was going to hate it because, like we said in the beginning, like, cool, Joker's dead, let's move on. But then the way that they kind of did this, like, it worked in a way that I didn't expect it to work. And, like, there are several times where you're just kind of grapple hooking through the city, and, like, Joker just scares the shit out of you. Like, he's just at the top of a building. And, like, there's all those cool little beautiful gameplay moments where you're like, okay, nice. Like, I was really struggling with this at first, but, like, I think it really ended up working out, and I thought it was really cool.
When he first showed up, because at this point in time, I'm still operating under one of 2 ideas. Like, I don't know definitively this is a hallucination. So I know when he first showed up, like, instantly I was like, I knew it. He's not dead. That was a body double. And then, like, very quickly you realize Batman's just losing his shit because fear toxin's a thing. Yeah,
and, like, with the blood poisoning and his fear toxin, it's a cocktail for destruction.
Oh, for sure.
And so, this game is super side quest heavy. There's like a metric shit ton of stuff to do. But I think Oracle getting kidnapped sort of gives us a way to quickly talk about the allies of Batman real quick, so then we can keep moving overall. So we're just going to kind of hit the ground running and just kind of blaze through it. In this world, Tim Drake and Barbara Gordon are engaged, which is really, really dope. And also, it sets a really hardcore dynamic because we learn that Batman lies to Tim constantly about like everything, about his blood. We learn that it's Tim's job to find the cure for, all the infected beings that are being held at this Panessa Studios place, even to the point where there's a fifth container that Tim is guarding until Batman, quote, brings the fifth infected person over. And he's apparently been at this project for months. And now that his fiancée is missing, he doesn't even bother to mention it. And so I struggle with this because like I get that Batman is so dedicated to being, on mission always, that he would make the call to keep Tim on track, because he knows that if Tim found out that the Oracle had been kidnapped, he would completely abandon his post and then try to go get Barbara Gordon. Of course, why would he not? It's his fiance. That totally makes sense. But then I was really cool when I was kind of putting this together. It really reminded me of the conversation that Shelby and I had when we were doing Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and we were talking about Harry and Dumbledore's relationship not being a father and son one, which is what everybody else parallels it, which I never thought made sense. I thought that Harry and Dumbledore were very much more of like a Batman and Robin kind of thing, like a samurai who's taken on a ward for like a specific purpose of war and no other reason, which is why that sacrifice play is always on the table. And that's why you can send a type of person like that to do whatever, to lie to them, to use them in whatever way, to manipulate it, because it's not a compassionate relationship. It's a mission focused conversation. And I just think, if it was a father-son dynamic, you can't send somebody that you think of as a son into a dangerous situation that might kill him. There's no way. But you can, if you're at war and you're in charge of somebody else and like you're the superior officer, it's expected. That's exactly what the job is. And I just think that I really hated that constant betrayal and deceit between Batman and like everybody else he knows. Like I hate that in him. I get the why. I just never liked it. I just thought that Robin should have really been the only person in that world that actually knew the innards of Batman to really just be an asset to him, and that just never really happened. And I know that was a lot and there was a heck of a rant, but like, what about you? Like, what do you think about that dynamic?
Something like, I agree. Like, I understand the call he made, because you need Robin focused on the cure. You need it for... Batman needs it for himself, obviously.
Right.
But I mean, Robin doesn't know that. And he also needs it for the 4 other infected people. Like, he needs that. He can't tell him that Barbara, Oracle, whatever you want to call her, has been, like, she got gotted, because he'll just dip out. Now you have no one making the toxin. Right. So, like, I get it. I get it.
Okay. Do you get it?
I get it.
Okay. I just make sure.
Well, actually, no, I get it.
Okay, perfect.
But like, and the other side of that too is he can't tell him that he's been infected with it, because then obviously, Robin's just going to try to shove him into that container.
Right.
I think he'll put 2 and 2 together, like, oh, the 5th one's yours.
Weird.
Get inside, sport.
Is that why there's yours is all black? There's a bat symbol. I wondered.
But I mean, you can't be out there punching criminals in the dick and also be dealing with Robin trying to shove you into a cell. So, like, to be Batman, to go out to do his thing, to beat bop from, rooftop to rooftop, and like I said, punch criminals in the dick, Robin needs to not know he's infected.
Right.
So, I mean, and I do agree that he, like I said, if he knew she was gone, he would dip out in a heartbeat. No second 100%. Thought whatsoever.
Nothing would keep him there. No, nothing. I agree.
And honestly, like, I don't know that Batman could stop. I mean, like, in the literal sense of, like, probably incapacitate him, you're like, yeah, you could probably stop Robin from leaving, but you can't force him to start working on your cure anymore.
Right. Like,
he needs to be doing that over his own free will, and he needs to do that under the assumption that Barbara's safe.
Right.
So, I mean, you need Robin to make a bat cure for the fear toxin. But I mean, dude, that is Robin. That's your boy. Bruh, that's your boy. That's the one guy you're supposed to trust. You're supposed to be able to trust you. You're supposed to just tell everything to. Because realistically, one day, I mean, he could take over the whole Bat persona. He could be the next Batman. Mm-hmm. And you're just lying to him left and right like a dick.
Yeah, man.
I mean, like, what do you expect to happen when he finds out? Like, you know what? I get why you did it, Bruce. It's cool. We cool. Like, no, I would probably punch you square in the dick hole.
100%.
Burn the bat cave to the ground. I don't care that it's a cave made of rock. I'll burn it to the ground.
Find a way. But yeah, so then in stark contrast to that and to the Tim Drake dynamic, Batman is pretty straightforward with Alfred. Alfred kind of knows everything always. But I think it's different here where Alfred's role is to only make suggestions and to either do exactly what Batman wants or to slightly improve upon an idea. And I think in this version, really, of Batman, like, Batman answers to no one, not Alfred, not anybody. He is his own commander, and that's it. Like, what do you think about that dynamic between him and Alfred?
I mean, first of all, Alfred, man, he's the dad we all want but don't deserve.
100%.
Let's be real. I mean, yeah, Batman doesn't have to answer anyone, but I think deep down he does feel he at least owes it to Alfred to be upfront, to be honest, to just lay everything out for him. I mean, that dude... He's not your real dad, but he raised you like you're his real son. Yeah. Like, let's be real. Like, you owe that man a shit ton. So, I mean, I think it'd be really shitty for Bruce to not be on the level with him. But I think it's real easy for... Because Alfred really doesn't, like, protest a whole lot with what he does. He's usually there just, like you said, like, to expand on an idea. Right. Or just be like, all right, cool. Like, I'll have tea ready when you get home. But, I mean, like, I think a lot of that is because Alfred knows Bruce at like the core of everything. He knows who he is, the person he is. So I think he's able to just get on board with whatever he's doing as Batman. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I think he truly believes Batman has, Gotham's best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a lot easier to be upfront with Alfred when he's just there supporting you, just doing everything, and again raised you.
Yeah, and then I think there's a little bit of that.
I mean, in either way, Batman can tell Alfred literally anything he wants. What is Alfred going to do to stop him? Yeah. Not a damn thing.
He could probably protest as Batman's beating him into the ground, but yeah, there's...
I mean, maybe put some Tylenol PM in his tea, but that's only going to slow him down. It's not going to stop him.
This story has also been amazing with giving us a ton of Nightwing content as well, who, like, personally, like, Nightwing is one of my all-time favorite DC characters, if I had to pick one. But I think a lot of the issues I brought up between, like, Tim and Bruce are what drove Dick Grayson away to become Nightwing in Bloodhaven, like, do his own thing. I think Dick is the kind of guy who needs an actual partner, not just a master, not like, somebody who just is going to be overcharged with him constantly, somebody who actually to bring him in. While I think Dick Grayson very much respects Bruce's, like, mission and, like, probably is one of the few people who really gets Bruce at his core, I think there's that reason that he needed to strike out on his own and establish his own method of fighting crime. And we get to have a blast doing some co-op fighting stuff where you switch between the two of them and really experience the different fighting styles between, like, Nightwing and Batman, which I liked a lot. And if I ever had the opportunity, I always switch to be Nightwing because I'm always Batman. Let me be somebody else. Yeah. But yeah, throughout their entire pursuit of Penguin, like, Bruce is constantly just telling Nightwing to piss off and go get out of Gotham. And I get that it's dangerous, but, like, again, I just don't understand, like, the complete refusal. Like, you brought Robin into this, and then he left and became Nightwing, and you see how capable he is. You brought in another Robin, and screw that one up. You brought in another Robin. So it's like he's...
We don't talk about the second one.
He's constantly bringing people in, and then just completely blowing them off. And I get that that's constant, but I just don't like it. Like, what did you think of, like, the Nightwing part?
So literally anytime Nightwing showed up, I was getting a very strong put me in coach vibe from him.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, bench warming's cool and all, but put me in coach.
Yeah, let me do this.
Let me carry the ball. I got this. I've been practicing real hard. But I mean, like, I get it. He just wants to help save Gotham. That's his hood too. Yeah. But in Bat, like you said, constantly tells him just to eat shit at every turn. Every time he walks up, why are you here? Get out, nerd, and then just, like, pushes him away.
And then Dick Grayson literally just is like, whatever, man, but here's this new information that you need. I mean, you can take it, you can not take it, I don't care.
I mean, I was just here to help. I mean, I have all this intel that you, the Batman, didn't have, but you're right, I'm the asshole. I need to leave.
I figured out how to track these vans. Did you want me to help you track that van? No. Oh, no. Oh, you did, though. You did. Okay,
cool. But I'll just fuck off. Okay, cool. I'm the asshole. I mean, I get it. Batman, maybe he's a little scorned, Nightwing just doesn't want to be Robin anymore, wants to do his own thing, dips out and is just super badass at it, maybe Batman's a little scorned. Maybe he's just a little jealous at how fucking great Nightwing is.
You can't do me. The only one that could do me is me.
But I mean, like, come the fuck on, Batman. God damn it. You are infected with the Joker toxin. Barbara's been snatched. Criminals are just running the streets. All the crime bosses are out and about just because why not? I mean, who's going to stop them? You're just one guy. The Arkham Knight is just wrecking shop at every turn. He's got this armed militia with robots just roaming the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not going great.
And to top it all off, Scarecrow's just out there making everyone in Gotham trip balls in a not groovy way. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe just quit being a brooding, edgy teen and just accept the help. We quit being a dick.
Because, yeah, I think this one for sure, like, this would be the game where, like, they could, and that's what we were expecting, because in Arkham City, which you didn't play, there were times where you were playing either as Batman or as Catwoman, and, like, you were actually playing through and going on missions and doing stuff completely isolated from Batman. It was awesome. So in this game, I think a lot of us were really expecting more of, like, a JLA type thing, where you could kind of tap in Nightwing and, like, Go, or you could tap in Robin and Go, or, like, whatever, you know, other characters that were supporting, cool. And that's what we were all expecting, and then that didn't happen, but the plot really warranted it. And I get, you know, several reasons why they didn't pursue that or whatever, but it just didn't make sense. It would have made way more sense for them to have more people involved, and they just never did. One of the other sidekicks that we actually get to hang out with a little bit throughout this entire series is Lucius Fox. He's also here to help provide a ton of guidance and equipment to the Dark Knight throughout the story, and I'm sure you know, Batman pretty much treated Lucius as kind of like a fellow inventor who loves to work with unlimited resources towards a common goal. I've always liked that dynamic because, I don't know, Lucius Fox, even in the movies and kind of in general, he's always just been like this solid guy, super into the mission, super into inventing, really liking working with like no restrictions whatsoever. I've always liked that interplay.
I have a hard time seeing Lucius as anyone but Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Like,
fair.
Like the entire time I'm playing the game, like, you're not Morgan Freeman.
He's not.
I'm not on board with this, but I actually am on board for Lucius as a character. It's a dope character. I mean, I like that he's just constantly throwing gadgets and gizmos at Batman. Like, oh, you need this very specific thing for this thing? Oh, well, it's a good thing I invented it last week. Here you go, sport.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Like, yeah, you know, I thought you might want this. No, I can't see in the future. I can see in the future. I built a device for it. That being said, I do hate him for constantly teasing us with the Batwing.
Right.
Like, just constantly, like, the whole grapple hook system, I think, for the Batmobile. Mm-hmm. He used the Batwing to bring it in. I'm like, oh, dope. I remember, again, we were in chat. I'm pretty sure I was like, oh, tell me I get to fly that. And then you just shit all over my parade to tell me that no, you never get to fly it.
And there were like a couple things that we heard rumors that like it was like one of the things that they wanted to do if they had like all the time in the world, like they wanted to intro the Batwing. That's why it was so prevalent in the game overall, but they just didn't have the time to make it work in a way that made sense. Cause like, I don't know, there's a point where you're just constantly just going back and forth between islands, especially when you're trying to clean up the platinum trophy that I got. And like, that would have been great to have the Batwing to just fly around.
Subtle brag.
And we just didn't. So, you know what? Hey man, this is a hard platinum to get. I'm gonna tell you.
You know what, that's fair.
The original trophies on their own were miserable to go through, and like a fast travel mechanic would have been really appreciated, and they just didn't have that. So.
Which honestly, I thought it was. I will say, I think it was easier to travel from like island to island just as Batman gliding than it was to drive from island to island. I know. I think it was a combination of just it was easier to glide and fly, and also hating the Batmobile mechanics. So like I didn't use it a whole lot.
I think my favorite was like once you got like the super eject. Like you could, you know, drive as fast as possible, hit your nitrous, and then like super eject and just catapult yourself out of the Batmobile. And then so I would go to wherever I needed to travel between islands, rocket toward the edge of the island, and then just launch myself out of it and then glide the rest of the way. Because like the glide, grapple, glide mechanics were amazing.
Yeah.
And again, to that guy's negative mechanic, you don't know what you're talking about. That game was awesome to travel around. It was very, very cool. All right, so anyway.
All that to say, let me fly the Batwing. Yeah. I get it. There's anti-air turrets. I'll just take him out with the Batmobile, and now let me fly the Batwing. Let me just zip-zop through town, and let me shoot the Man-Bat thing with my Batwing, because I hate that thing.
That thing was so scary.
Oh my God, the first time I met it scared the shit out of me, and we will talk about that later.
All right, you want to go into Chapter 3? So I call Chapter 3 CloudBurst Buddies, which I thought was pretty appropriate because there's a lot of stuff that happens in CloudBurst.
I hate you so much.
So Batman learns that Scarecrow recruited businessman Simon Stagg to build the CloudBurst, a mass dispersal device for the fear toxin. And aboard Stagg's airship, Batman interrogates Stagg and finds Scarecrow, but a dose of fear toxin allows the Joker to temporarily assume control over Batman's body, while the Arkham Knight extracts the CloudBurst. This part I think is actually really cool because Scarecrow kind of like inject punches into Batman's chest, and then we actually get to kind of a blast beating everybody up because you kind of hear the voice of Joker just talking about like, man, like I didn't know how powerful your body was, Bats, between like my brain and your brawn, like we could just make it all rain. And like it's it was like the first time where like you had fun just beating everybody. I mean, it was always fun, but then like, you know, Batman's like not enjoying himself or whatever. But then as Joker, as the pilot, like you're just wailing away and laughing and enjoying and stuff. Like I thought it was like a really fun moment. Like, what'd you think about that?
Oh, it was a blast. Also, can we talk about how like Batman's non-lethal, but like every takedown, like combat takedown, when you punch a guy's face into the ground, you can hear the bones breaking. Like, all right, cool. You didn't kill him. He'll live, but he won't live well.
He's not going to be happy about it.
But yeah, no, I was digging the whole Joker-esque Batman. I mean, and we've talked about it, I'm a huge fan of the Batman Who Laughs storyline. So I'm all for a Joker-infused Batman. Give me that, please. Yes, please, thank you.
It was very cool. Very hardcore, very brutal.
Oh, for sure.
Very different, like dynamic of like the enjoyment of the brutality as opposed to like the requirement of the brutality, which I think was the difference. So after Batmaning his way through the fear toxin, Batman locates Oracle in Scarecrow's hideout. But when he arrives, she's exposed to the fear toxin, and in horror of Batman, she takes her own life. And like, I've been watching Batman stories unfold in like every different medium presented, you know, comics, movies, video games, everything. And this is still in that scene one of the most painful ways I've seen her go. Like it's one thing to have, you know, Scarecrow kill her or like one of the thugs kill her or have her fall or whatever. Like that's one thing. But to have her take her own life because of how afraid she was of Batman, like that, there's something about that really stung. And it's like, why didn't you just take your mask off, bud? Like, how hard is it? Like, you have a button, you just get a little taparooski, take off your Batman face and just look at her. Like, that moment was really difficult.
Two things. One, I thought I just had right now. So imagine tripping balls in the most not groovy way, right? Like you are scared shitless to the point that you're about to blow your own brains out. Yeah. And the scary bat monster in front of you just took its head off.
Ooh.
So, you know what?
Okay. All right, well, maybe.
And that, like, so, you know, Joker knows who Batman really is at some point in time in every story. But, like, the Scarecrow doesn't know it's actually Bruce Wayne, right?
No.
Okay, so being with that thought process, I mean, Bats has to assume he's still watching. Mm-hmm. So, like, you don't want to take the helmet off, show that you're Bruce Wayne, because then you also put anyone else who's close to you in danger. Now it's not just Barbara. Now it's also Alfred and literally anyone else.
Well, so I know that it's revealed later on, like on TV, like that's part of the plot. But like if, you know, so we know that Jason Todd is the Arkham Knight. If there are all intent, what I don't know is what the intercommunication is. He might know. And you guys can fact check me on that because I'm not 100% crystal. I know that's revealed later on. I don't know if in this moment he actually knows.
So let's just operate on the assumption he doesn't.
Okay, I agree.
Then, you know, you don't really want to take it off and put, you know, however many more people in danger.
Right, that's fair.
But yeah, I did not see her just with a handgun blowing her brains out. That one caught me off guard.
Yeah.
That was definitely an oh shit moment.
100%. And so, yeah, so let's keep going. So Harley Quinn seizes Batman's base in the Panessa Studios, and that's where Tim Drake is trying to figure out how to heal all the Jokerized people. And it's here that we actually get to see another duo team up between Batman and Robin to capture Harley and the Infected. And it's here that the game spends actually a lot of time digging into the different versions of Joker. Each of the four characters, like one's kind of a boxer, one's like a celebrity actor, one's like this weird Johnny Charisma, like musician person. But they all have like their own crazy, like ferocious brutality about them. And I was like, in the beginning, I was trying to figure out like why they were spending so much time, like having them have their own like wing of this studios thing, why they're spending so much time building them up or whatever. And like, I think that the whole point was to see these four different people turning into these bloodthirsty killers to highlight how much worse it would have been if it were Batman to go through that change. And like, even at the end, you know, there's this one character called Henry Adams who shows really no signs of changing whatsoever. Like, clearly physically he looks very much like an old Joker or whatever, but he doesn't have like the crazy mannerisms of everybody else. And he was even able to earn Batman's trust enough to work the Bat computer and kind of like help out or whatever. But he ends up being the guy who's the furthest along, and he kills all the other ones because he finds out that, oh, Batman's infected. He's going to be the best of all of us. He's the one that really should take this blood. You know, it's his, you know, he's the heir to the Joker Cowl kind of thing or whatever. Like, they all kind of treated him as like the chosen one. And so I think that in the game, they spent so much time kind of spelling all those out just to tell you how much worse it would be if Bruce was the one that actually went and gave in to that toxin. What'd you think of all that kind of dynamic?
Definitely getting a one of us vibe there. And again, I'm a big fan of the Batman Who Laughs. That entire, and like Dark Knight's Metal and all that is dark and rad and super cool. And you should definitely read it, or at least look into it. You would enjoy it. It's super cool. So like I'm here for a Joker infected Batman. I'm all about it. So yeah, he can be the chosen one. He does a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Well, and really quick before we keep going, is that would be a really cool, follow up, whatever. Is now, Nightfall is actually the problem where Bruce gives in to that chemical, and now it's Nightwing and it's Robin and it's Oracle and Azrael, whatever. They're all trying to figure out like, oh God, this guy is awful. This is a Joker infused Batman. Like
that would actually be rad as hell.
Yeah,
I want that. Yeah.
And so here's when things kind of come to a head between Tim Drake and Batman, and that from a gameplay side, we're actually given the chance to either put ourselves into quarantine or to throw Robin in. And the first time I played it, I wanted to see what happened if I put myself in the chamber, because Arkham City did the same thing where you're playing as Catwoman and you're supposed to help Batman, like I think he's about to get shot or something like that, and you're supposed to help him. But you actually have an option to completely ignore Batman and just escape and take care of yourself. And it lets you play through that scenario, and then it kind of like rewinds it back. So I thought it was kind of cool to let you have a chance to, figure out what decision that you wanted to. Ultimately, you have to throw Robin in and keep on going. But I thought it was a really cool kind of thing. You have like put yourself in quarantine or throw Robin in quarantine.
Oh, I'd have thrown Robin in. Ain't nobody gonna tell Batman what to do or stand in his way. Eat shit, you bird-named bitch.
So fair enough. So soon after getting back to it, the Arkham Knight activates the CloudBurst, flooding the city with fear toxin. And then Batman destroys the CloudBurst and convinces Ivy to empower an ancient tree that you were talking about that can neutralize the toxin. She succeeds and saves Gotham, but the exertion of that actually kills her. And now I want to pause again for a moment here because I think that this is one of the coolest versions of Poison Ivy I've ever seen. I think that she's always been green focused, obviously. She's never really cared about humans whatsoever. She's always been about the plants and stuff. But I don't ever recall her as like... I don't recall another version of her being featured in this way as well. I think it was a really cool, beautiful, heroic moment centered around a person who normally I never would have pictured as doing that. What do you think of that sacrifice?
I was just like, well, shit. But like, if you have to go out, it's a pretty badass way to go out.
Mm-hmm. And again, she wasn't doing it really to save Gotham. Like, she didn't do it for Gotham at all. She did it because she thought that if this didn't happen, that all the plants and all the trees and stuff were going to die, and it was going to have like adverse effects overall. And so she's always going to that end. And I thought that was a really cool take on her character.
Hashtag die like a hero.
Hashtag die like a hero. And so Batman then pursues the Arkham Knight to the construction site to rescue Gordon. Arkham Knight reveals himself as Jason Todd, the previous Robin who had been seemingly murdered by the Joker and has been left traumatized by torture at the hands of the Joker. Todd blames Batman for abandoning him, and although Batman offers to help Todd recover, he kind of escapes. And so here's this big reveal of the story, leaked by several, believed by many, and you'd already said it before, like you kind of saw it coming. Like, what'd you think of that?
Wait, so you mean Jason Todd was the Arkham Knight the whole time? What? Whoa! No one can see the eye roll I did, but I did an eye roll.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it was Jason Todd. I mean, like, again, to my point earlier, you have the Arkham Knight who has like intimate knowledge of Batman, like how he fights, how he operates, what he, his arsenal, all that stuff. And you also know his name, like his real name. Of course it's going to be someone who like was once very close to Batman. It's not going to be some Joe Schmo off the streets. And of course it's going to be Jason Todd because he's not anywhere else in the story. And now you have some asshat badass out here who again is just like an anti-Batman.
And like, it was a really heartbreaking story the way that they told it. They used fear gas as a method because they've done a couple things with the fear gas. You have the Killing Joke is completely replayed in the story through a fear toxin like moment. You see Joker break in, you see, Barbara Gordon run and get shot in the back. So that was great. So then they do the same thing with Jason Todd. You're taken to him being kidnapped. You're shown him, being tortured. Like, there's a point where like, Joker kind of beats him really hardcore, and then you see Jason Todd kind of like scramble into the shadows, and then you see Joker pick up kind of a hot poker with a J on it and go to brand him, and you hear like the just blood curdling screaming from Jason Todd. Like, it's just so hardcore the way that they do that. And yeah, to find out that Batman's former Robin, Jason Todd, was tortured so long, and then by the time he saw Batman had recruited Tim Drake to replace him, Jason snapped. And it just really spoke to the fragility of the mind of like what they're dealing with. Like there's so much trauma that brought all these people together, and like this is what happens when you do that. So it was just really hardcore.
The Bat family is such a really sad family.
Sure is. And so yeah, soon after this, something equally insane happens. And since I took the first twist, why don't you take the second one?
So Batman and Gordon confront Scarecrow on the building's rooftop, right?
Yep.
Where dun dun dun, it's revealed that Oracle is still alive. What? Because like, who didn't see that coming? Also, because again, when she shot herself, like I was instantly like, okay, again, body double. Because I just assume that's always in the cards for any of the villains. Like they've done it a handful of times. Like just it's not that hard to think that they just kidnapped someone off the street, brainwashed them, made them get plastic surgery to look like this person as all part of their plan later. Mm-hmm. So like either body double or like some like that cell was empty and like they actually just put like a TV screen on that front window and we're just playing some Hollywood magic bullshit that they like cropped together to make Batman think that she killed herself. Mm-hmm. So like her being alive, like I kind of figured that was the route because I had a hard time seeing them actually kill her off.
Yeah, and it's kind of a cool play on like a lot of stories use like an unreliable witness. Like they're doing like this Birds of Prey movie, which I didn't watch Suicide Squad. I don't really care about Birds of Prey, but like they're saying that like Harley Quinn is going to be an unreliable witness where like, yeah, she's going to have all these experiences, but then you're never really going to know what happens. And I thought that this was a really cool way to really talk about how fractured Batman's mind was, where he's legitimately experiencing stuff, but none of it's real. Like what is real, what's not real. And I just thought that was a really cool take on it.
Not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but you haven't seen the Joker movie, right?
No, it's been spoiled for me countless times now. Okay. Which sucks.
Because, like, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you more. I haven't seen it, but, like, I know, like, the storyline. Yeah. Because, like, I spoil shit for myself all the time because I'm an idiot like that.
Ridiculous.
So, like, that whole thing kind of ties into that same concept of, like, what is real, what happened, what didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think that's a really cool storytelling dynamic.
Oh, for sure. It's maddening, for sure.
For sure.
It's, I mean, yeah, you tell your story. You do what you want. So anyways, her suicide was the result of a fear toxin hallucination, but on Batman's side, not her side. Mm-hmm. So Batman rescues Oracle and returns her to the GCPD, but Scarecrow escapes with Gordon and using whatever leftover militia from the seemingly endless army assaults the police station to eliminate Batman's allies. Like, why do they just keep trading hostages?
I don't know. It's just constantly kidnapping one person.
Like, tell you what, I'll give you Barbara, but you gotta give me Gordon, all right?
Gordon's so old, you can have him. I don't need him. Go ahead.
You can take girl Gordon, but I got guy Gordon, all right? Batman and Oracle neutralize the militia, but Scarecrow uses the distraction to kidnap Robin. Jesus Christ. Stop letting people get kidnapped. Which leads us to the final chapter, Nightfall Protocol.
Which again, awesome storytelling mechanic. We've known about it for years. But yeah, the perfect name for the ending. Really well done here by Rocksteady. So let's just get into it. So to save Robin and Gordon, Batman surrenders to Scarecrow and is taken to the ruins of Arkham Asylum in very much the same way that Joker did in Arkham Asylum, which I thought was a really cool callback. So the intro to Arkham Asylum is your Batman escorting Joker, and Joker's like on this stand-up gurney that's kind of like Hannibal Lecterous. It's like it's tipped backwards and stuff.
Hello, Clarice.
Yeah. So then they reverse that. So then now you're Batman who's attached to that same table going back. And so it's this really cool moment where I think Joker's even in the elevator, like talking about this really cool like similarities there. And so Scarecrow reveals Batman's secret identity as Bruce Wayne to the world on public television, and then repeatedly injecting Batman with fear toxin to break him before the public. Batman and the Joker then battle for control inside Batman's mind. Joker attempts to weaken Batman by recounting all of the people who have suffered and died because of his crusade, but Batman triumphs and locks the pleading Joker away in his mind forever to be forgotten, which, like I said in the beginning, that's the Joker's only fear, is to be forgotten, which is why he was trying to infect everybody else, so he would have kind of clones running around. Very Horcruxy, very Harry Potter Voldemort-y.
So is that 2 or 3 Harry Potter references you've managed to sneak in?
However I can sneak in Harry Potter, I will. But then, in a very comic booky way, Jason Todd arrives just in time to save his former mentor and then subdues Scarecrow with his own fear toxin. And so, why don't you take the end, Briar?
Gonna give you a taste of your own medicine. All right, so after Batman ensures that Gotham is safe, Gordon dispatches the police to reclaim the streets, and Batman activates the Nightfall Protocol to protect his loved ones. Surrounded by reporters, Batman returns home to Wayne Manor, where he is greeted by Alfred, the dad we all want but don't deserve. As the pair enter the manor, it explodes. Huge fireball, seemingly killing them both. Sometime later, Gordon, now mayor of Gotham, prepares to attend Oracle and Robin's wedding. Aww. Elsewhere, two muggers attack a family. That is a hard shift.
It sure is.
Prepares to attack a family in an alley, but are confronted by a nightmarish figure resembling Batman. And I actually have seen that cutscene, and it is badass.
And so pretty much that's the end. There's a ton of side stories and stuff. So before we go into thoughts on Retcon, there's a couple of side stories I want to touch on real quick. Because honestly, if you haven't played this game, there are so many side stories, both with the launch version and then with all the DLC that came out with it. It's absolutely worth checking out because there's so many stories in that thing. And so at the end of the credits, you see this like that nightmarish Batman figure who's patrolling. And so there's a side story called Heir to the Cowl, where it's Azrael and he's trying to train. He wants, he knows that Batman can't do this forever. He actually thinks that he's superior to Batman. He's doing what he can to do that. And I think that story is really cool because at the ending, like the character of Batman kind of looks like Azrael's like cape or whatever. Now in the side story, you kind of figure out that Azrael's been brainwashed. He's actually kind of like a damaged person or whatever, but he's still got all the skills there. So I like to think that maybe that's what happened, is that like Azrael did end up assuming that mantle of Batman, and he was the one that produced it in that way, which I thought was kind of cool. So what were your thoughts on the Heir to the Cowl story?
Like the concept, but there's already an Heir to the Cowl. His name's Robin.
Ooh, which one?
Shut up. So, I mean, you can take your medieval looking ass and just fuck right off. Just trying to jump in line. Nah, you wait for this Robin to become Batman, then you can be his Robin. Or you can just eat shit and go somewhere else. Also, could you explain like how he was brainwashed? Like, so real quick without taking forever.
So in this take real quick, I guess they kind of do some like mind mapping or whatever, and they just find out that there was like another like subset group, like another secret Illuminati, whatever, ancient group, whatever, that just really wanted to figure out how to kill Batman. So they picked this guy, Azrael. They brainwashed him with all this, like, I am kind of a King Arthur type, Knights of the Round Table type of person with all these skills and abilities. But then they were programming in him like Batman's fighting style and all this other stuff, which is what made him so capable. But then they were kind of programming his desire to actually kill Batman. So at the end of that story, there's like a sword that's behind Azrael, and you have the opportunity to take that sword, kill Batman, and take over the mantle for yourself. And depending on what happens, Batman gets the best of him and kind of moves on and puts him, I think, in one of the holding cells or something like that. So it was just kind of a little quick nod to the brainwashing and stuff like that. But it was a pretty cool story. There's also the Riddler Catwoman storyline, which I thought was another cool addition to the story. You have some more duo free flow combat. Plus the love story between Bruce and Selina is the only one I've ever liked. I've always hated Talia. She can suck it. I just don't like her at all. What do you think about the Bruce-Selina dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, I support that one more than the Talia one.
Yeah.
Like, I would agree with that. That being said, I really just not a huge fan of the Riddler as a villain overall. He's like one of my least favorite. So like I didn't care for his side story at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask if I have to hear riddle me this Batman one more goddamn time.
And again, to get the platinum, like the Riddler trophies are what made that so painstakingly awful. It was just a ridiculous
so
feat.
Annoying. God, listening to him talk is the worst. Cool.
And so third, the rest of the Rogues Gallery is definitely in full force here. You got Two-Face, Firefly, Penguin, Killer Croc, the Mad Hatter, this weird butcher guy. There's, again, so much content in this game that it's a really good value to pick up just because there's so much fan service done, so many stories to do. It'd take us forever to get through it all, and it's really worth your time.
I hate Firefly. I hate him so much. Yeah, I hate him so hard.
It's awful.
I hated his missions. I hated driving the Batmobile to chase him. I hate that the entire time he's just hurling firebombs and insults at me. Like, no shit, I can't keep up. You can literally fly, and I have to take this clunky ass tank around some pretty sharp turns that, the streets are lined with cars, by the way.
Yeah.
And, I can run them over, but they slow me down a bit, all right? And you just keep blowing shit up. I hate Firefly. Just... I just want to turn a fire hose on him and call it a day. God damn, he's the worst. The Bat Monster thing, I liked the story, like how he became.
Yeah, the Man Bat storyline was really well done.
I didn't go all the way through it, but like I got the origin of him. Like, him and his wife are just doing some experiments, and you go down there and you find her dead body, and like you watch the video, like how it all happened.
Goo.
Pretty awesome, very dark, pretty cool. That thing scared the shit out of me the first time.
It got everyone. Like that one, and there's one more Joker does it too.
I think I see the Joker one too.
Yeah, man, and like that was like everybody talked about like how traumatic that was. It was crazy.
Like I remember just grappling hook, because like the game was like, hey, grapple hook to this point. I'm like, all right, cool. Grapple hook to an edge, get ready to pull myself over, and then Bat's just in my face, Bat screeching at me.
Yeah,
causing me to have a bad heart attack. It's not a good bad time.
But then you also have all of these separate DLC storylines. You get to play as Tim Drake. You actually go on kind of a mission without like Batman after the fact. Then you get like a cool story with Barbara Gordon
paraplegic.
Well, was it the killing? Yeah, pre-killing joke. I was like, killing strike doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you're her. You're going around like it's this awesome kind of thing with the Joker. You have this cool Harley Quinn story, and they all had really great takes on them. They were pretty short, but they were really interesting, I thought, and they were at least worth mentioning, even though if we're not going to dive into them. So then, overall, what do you think of the story? The
story's great. I do like the story from what I have played and from what you've told me about it. I think it's a great story. I don't know why. I don't know if maybe it's just because the only time I get to play it is like late at night. I'm just exhausted anyways. Yeah. But like I find myself like doing like a mission or two and then just getting bored and not wanting to keep playing.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I think also a large part of that is because I don't have that backstory too. Like I don't have all the previous events driving me through this one. It's just me jumping in, doing a couple things as Batman. Like, okay, cool. I'm going to go play something else now.
Yeah. And that's fair. And they have like a bundle pack that has like Asylum in City on it. So if you ever find that on sale, it's worth going through. Like it's a great story, it really is. But it's a hell of a time commitment, and there's so much more stuff coming out constantly. So if you ever get a chance, it'd be worth it.
And that's the problem. Like there's so many games like that I want to go back and play, but there's so much new stuff coming out that grabs my attention more so that I just end up never putting the time into going back and doing, playing any of the other ones.
Yeah, which is fair.
Yeah.
And so for myself, I thought the story was fantastic. I thought it was a perfect ending to their take on Batman's story, and I loved the ride the entire time. It was a little predictable for sure, but like I said in the intro, I was a big fan of the series from the start, and I've popped the game in a few times over the years since then. I mean, it came out years ago, just because the free flow combat is so much fun to play. They have all these like augmented reality missions where it's just like little horde mode type things where you just fight a bunch of people. I hated Predator mode because I'm not patient. I'm not a stealth-based gamer at all. But the like combat heavy stuff it's just so much fun to do. Like I have so much fun playing those moments. But when you're getting in the story, like there's so much Predator stuff that you have to do and like all these tank things. Like there's so much that bogs you down that I can totally see how sometimes you're like, all right, I just need to put it down for a little bit. But overall, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool. And like the storyline throughout the entire season, all three of them, the main ones, in my opinion, Asylum, City, and Night, I thought were great. And like I said, I platinumed the game. Those Riddler trophies were an absolute nightmare. But I just think, and that's why I keep bringing it up. It's like there are some platinums that you get that are really easy, like
Spider-Man,
the Telltale ones. Like some of them just get it to you for finishing the game. Like you had to hunt these things down. You had to grind your way through it. And it's just, this was the first time where I remember thinking like, this isn't fun anymore. Like there's a trophy called Run Through the Jungle where you have to unlock your super eject. You know how there's like 3 bridges across the islands? You have to eject and you have to, without touching the ground, dive bomb under each one of them. And so it's just so, it takes you so long to figure out like, the speed of going down, gliding up, going down, gliding up. And like, it just took me forever. And it was just so grindy that it was ridiculous. So say all that to say, this is what we came here for. What would we do if we could retcon Batman Arkham Knight? And Briar, since you were the guest, why don't you go for it?
So I would do... So again, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of my retcons are like gameplay based. So I would change like, again, the Batmobile, just the Batmobile driving and then the tank controls. I don't know, like if they could be just fine tuned a little bit, just make the steering not so touchy. Cause there's a couple times where like I just wanted to like just drift a little bit into the next lane and like I flick the analog stick and now I'm just head first into a wall. It's just like, God damn it, I just wanted to list lazily to the left.
So if you hold over and double tap X, you can strafe really quick left or right.
Why did I? No, I know that, but I didn't want to strafe either. I literally just wanted to adjust slightly because like the road has a very slight turn to it, or like I'm drifting to one side and there's a car there. I want to kind of straighten back out.
No, you hit the car.
Yeah, and it slows me down and Firefly gets away. We've been over this.
All right.
So yeah, just kind of like touch up a couple things there, clean that up a little bit. The tank was fun when you're in tank mode. I did have fun playing the tank, you know, driving around and shooting the other tanks. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it just feels so not Batman.
Yeah,
like it was a cool addition, and I like playing with it, but it felt out of place. And then the combat. So like I like the combat. Okay, mm-hmm. I want to say that up top. Mm-hmm. I like the combat. But Jesus Christ, doing a 30-foot sideways cartwheel from punching this guy to go punch that guy? Yeah. No.
Yeah. Amazing.
No. Yeah, it was great to watch. And I remember losing my shit while in huge combats because Batman's just somersaulting absurd distances to roundhouse kick a dude in the face.
He does like
breaking
this,
every
like,
bone in his face.
Somersault, like springs off his hands, decks a guy, flies up over the air. Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
It's great to watch, but come on.
So much fun.
No, we would not. Batman could not somersault that distance.
You don't know that.
I do know that. He's a man.
He's a Batman.
God damn it. But yeah, I mean, that's really it for me. Just some tweaks to the combat. Maybe like I get you have to be able to flow from one guy to the other in combat, but again, like maybe like shorten the distance up a little bit. Make it. I don't want to say make it more realistic because it's a fucking video game. But, you know, like, maybe don't make it absolutely ridiculous.
Don't make your hit range so wide.
Yeah, like, narrow that in a little bit. Tighten up the controls in the Batmobile a little bit. So, like, again, I'm just trying to, like, shift in the lane. And I'm not face first into a wall now because it just hooked a wicked right turn out of nowhere.
Yeah. And that's fair. And so for me, like, the combat didn't bother me whatsoever. If anything, I wanted more real time with, like, not just, like, don't let me only play as Robin if I'm with Batman and I have to swap between the two when I'm fighting. Let me actually take him through the city. Yeah. Like, you know, I know how Batman, like, he can dive bomb, he can glide, all that other stuff. How does Robin get through the city? Like, what is his method? Is it exactly like Batman is, or is his technique different?
Ooh, give me the Robin bike.
Yeah, like Nightwing. He doesn't have a cape whatsoever. So what is his technique for getting through the city? Like, I would have rather been able to spend more time just kind of traveling through it. I think that would have been really cool. But that, from a gameplay standpoint, that's it. I mean, I got used to the Batmobile. I've always liked the free-flow combat. That's never bothered me. I just wanted more time playing as other characters. Now, the only thing from a story that I'd really change is the twist of the Arkham Knight, because I really hoped that the Arkham Knight character was going to be something cooler like Thomas Wayne Jr. or like a super dark spin on like Terry McGinnis, like cool. Like an evil Batman Beyond character. Because like if you think about it, like the brainwashing, the grooming, all the stuff that were shown, it's very much like the antithesis of like what Batman did to Robin. And so I think it really proves how similar both Batman and the Joker are in the way that they can kind of recruit and to a point corrupt, you know, fragile minds into doing what they want, into becoming like their wards and like their, because they both did it. And Jason Todd is so jacked up that it happened twice. He, you know, completely did whatever Batman wanted and then completely did whatever Joker wanted. And so I think it would have been really cool to see like a different take and not use Jason Todd, which I thought was really lazy anyway. I just don't think that there was any surprise to Jason Todd. I think we all saw it coming. Yeah. And like I said, I was like, it's too easy. It's got to be something different. It wasn't.
I mean, the people who didn't see it coming were the ones who had no idea who Jason Todd even was.
Right. And you know, maybe it would have been cool for them. But even if you didn't know who Jason Todd was and you still have no context for anybody, especially if you didn't play the prequels or anything. Yeah. So,
like, I mean, the only reason I know who he was is from watching Comics Explained so much. Like, I knew of like the Red Hood storyline prior to like going through and actually watching the videos on it on Comics Explained. Yeah. But like I went and watched those and really kind of like hammered in all the fine details.
Yeah.
But again, like I had that previous knowledge. So like, you know, Arkham Knight shows up. Yeah, it's Jason Todd.
Yeah, of course it is.
Of course it is.
But yeah, everything else was fine by me. I thought Rocksteady did an amazing job with the story. Should absolutely be commended as like just a hell of an impact on gaming in general for the free flow combat alone. And then to show like, I don't know, like Christopher Nolan kind of revitalized the Batman series in a way that nobody else had done before. And I think that Rocksteady kind of did the same thing with this Arkham Knight series, is to show, you know, hey, take your licenses seriously. Yeah, the name's going to sell you copies, but like you have the opportunity to do something incredible with these. And I think that we've seen like Spider-Man on PS4, somebody who really took that license and really did great things with it. So I think that monetarily, like these games sold like crazy. Critically, these games did so well. And so now I think they've really showcased, like, if you bring in the right actors, if you have the right development team behind it, if you give them the time that they need to develop these games, it's going to perform for you better than anything else will. And I think it's really cool to see the future of like what may be on the horizon. So I can't wait.
And they did do a good job of highlighting that, because I mean, a license and a character will only get you so far. If you don't have a solid story to back it, no one gives a shit about it.
100%. Like you were saying, like the second the game stops being fun, you're out. I don't care who's in the game. I don't care, give me a Blade game, which I have on PlayStation 2. It's not great, but it's Blade. Now I own it, but I don't play it because it's not fun, because it's super clunky. Now Marvel is getting Blade back up and running. I'm getting ready to do my own episode standalone on Blade, specifically because I love that character. I'm really hopeful that this new take on Blade will spawn off another really good Blade video game, because I think he's a great character worth exploring. But if you give me, like, Fast and the Furious, we just saw that trailer for the Game Awards, and it looks like a straight up PlayStation 2 game. The graphics are not great. It might not be finished, which is fine. No. But at face value, it looks bad. I don't care about that property. That property isn't going to get me to play your game, especially if your game looks and performs badly. No. So again, you got to take your licenses seriously. So let's go ahead and wind this down. Any other final thoughts on this? Like speculation for what Rocksteady might do for like a PlayStation 5 launch title, maybe?
No, I mean, I don't know. If they want to do a specific Batman launch title, I think they'd have to do a whole new story at this point. They can't. I don't really know how they'd continue this one on. Because, I mean, you'd have the night, unless they do like their own take on the Batman Who Laughs. I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I think so, too.
That'd be pretty sweet. And I would 100% buy that. But I don't know. I mean, you can only do so many Batman stories before you just run into basically the Jason Todd effect, where you're just recycling an old story over and over again. Yeah. And you got to be careful doing that, because like you can only do that so many times before people start to hate it, much like everyone like, oh, it's Jason Todd's the Arkham Knight. Who didn't see that coming? Yay.
Yeah, franchise fatigue is definitely a real thing, and if everybody always sees everything coming, it's not fun anymore. Then they do it. I kind of hope, and they've actually teased quite a bit in a couple different ways, the Court of Owls kind of logos and some other stuff.
Great.
And like that's a story I stumbled upon years ago when I was on vacation in Chicago. I was in a comic book store, and like I just found the cover. I'm like, what is this? I kind of talked to the guy that worked at the comic book store, and I picked it up. And then I poured through that novel, and I loved it. That's a great story. And I think that's one that would definitely be worth like putting into a property, especially for like a launch title for PlayStation 5. I think that'd be a really cool title. And so even if, say like they officially kill Bruce Wayne's Batman and he's dead, now to have like Nightwing or Robin, like to have that group to take on the Court of Owls, because Batman was very proficient at getting through it. He struggled. It was hard. He got his ass kicked a lot. It was this whole thing that he didn't know. But I think it would be cool to remove Batman entirely and then call this game something else, Batman or whatever, tag it however you want to. I don't really care. But
the Bat Family in the Court of Owls.
Well, isn't like there a whole...
Sounds like a shitty
Isn't
band.
there a whole comic called like... maybe it's A Death in the Family, and it's all about all the characters that played, like Robin and Nightwing and Barbara Gordon and all that stuff. And I think that was a really cool, separated from Batman's story and like what the kids were doing or what the mentees were doing. And I think that would be a really cool take, like them and like the Arkham Knight. So that would be pretty cool. I hope. I don't know. It's been teased, but I guess we'll see.
I love the Court of Owls, but I always forget about it. And then like you mentioned, I'm like, oh, that's right. That story's amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. I can't wait. And it's definitely like that story alone. Like if you haven't, you've gone through that story?
I haven't read it, but like I've watched a lot of videos on it and like I've read a lot of stuff about it, but I haven't actually had a chance to get it in my hands to read through it.
It's so, you'll love it. If you ever get, I'll let you borrow my copy if you'd like, but it's definitely a story that we should break down. So that's it. I think we've covered it as best we can. I think we've done some good damage here.
And hey, we stayed pretty close to the timeline you wanted. So,
yeah, pretty close. So, Briar, again, thank you for coming back to the show. Thank you for hanging out with me again. I really hope that we keep doing these more and more because they're really fun. Pudding. So for everybody else, thank you for listening to Briar and myself break down Batman Arkham Knight. If you're into it, you're welcome to support us on Facebook, Twitter, and or wherever you get your sweet audio goods delivered to you. Hopefully you're hearing this somewhere, and if wherever you're hearing that has some kind of ranking system, please give us some positive metrics, a kind word or two. Just kind of keep us up and going, because we do this for us for sure, but we definitely hope that you enjoy it as well. So that's it for us today. We'll see you next time on Retcon Air.
Bye. Or whatever.